Hi, welcome to Messier Mantra. Sarah Elizabeth is our guest.
Nice to meet you.
I got a little tongue-tied. Give me your full name, I'm sorry.
Well, it's a funny story. I go by Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell.
Right.
It's not for some pretentious, waspy sounding reason.
Right.
It's just because Elizabeth Mitchell is an actress who went to the same school in London that I did BADA. And so if you Google Elizabeth Mitchell, you're going to get Elizabeth Mitchell from Lost.
Okay.
And if you Google Sarah Mitchell, she's a Broadway singer-dancer.
Right.
So in order to have a unique name for both the union and, SEO, Googling purposes, I had to use both names, Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell, in order to have a unique name because there were already actresses, either Sarah Mitchell or Elizabeth Mitchell. And now I just use both rather than coming up with a pseudonym. So people are always like, kind of, are you Elizabeth? Are you Sarah?
Right.
Like, what's going on with the three names? Are you just pretentious? And it's like none of the above. I just wanted people to be able to Google me.
I just want to have a career here.
Right.
And I liked your attitude. You did a really interesting thing on a Facebook group that I'm back in. I try to leave the world of Facebook, but I got back in, and I saw you kind of came in strong with all these posts, and I hadn't seen you there because I took a vacation from Facebook. I came back, and you were pretty active.
Right.
In a mutual friend group, Hollywood East Actors Group.
Right.
And I saw you do these really cool things, and you were like, I need questions for my Q&A. And I bought into it. I'm like, here's some questions.
You had good questions, yeah. Erica Derrickson, who runs that group and who is the founder of Hollywood East, she has been really my inspiration in terms of how she teaches actors to use social media. And so, I think, again, people get this misperception that it's sort of an egotistical thing that people are making these posts like whatever. But, from her perspective, you're really marketing yourself for indies and that kind of thing by trying to have a broader reach on social media. And I have had moments where I've sat down for interviews at non-New England agencies,
right,
which I won't name.
Sure.
And they've said, we'd prefer you to be different in this and that category, but we would consider you if you had 10,000 Instagram followers.
Interesting.
And so, at the time, I think I had like 300 Instagram followers, and that's when I realized it really is a currency, especially in the commercial print world, to have a greater reach, because if you repost an advertisement on Instagram for whatever the brand or the client was, and you have 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 followers, it's essentially free advertising reach for them.
How do people get followers? How do people get friends? Tweet
I wish I knew better.
Right.
I don't know. I just try to post things that I think are interesting and hope that people like them.
What I liked
Stay true to my principles as best I can.
What are the principles of Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell?
Well, I do think there's a lot of folks on Instagram who are like doing things that skin is easy Instagram likes and just like kind of really like, I don't know. It's a weird economy of like what gets followers. But I try to, stay true to my story and just post things that I like, and hopefully people will like them too.
Do these we're just going into interesting directions, but let's keep going.
Right.
These social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, those are the big three right now? Am I missing something? Reddit?
Honestly, I don't use Twitter at all.
Okay, so you're a non-Twitterer.
Because I think if you're an actor or if you're doing any kind of modeling, you are working in the world of images, photographs. A film is a series of stills that's flickering before your eyes, creating a moving image. So Twitter is the world of the spoken word.
Right.
It's characters. It's 140 characters. That is great for comedians to tell a joke. It's great for writers to say something clever. If you're modeling, like your image can't even really be like that well posted on Twitter. It's like that link and then you click it, you see the image. So Twitter is not as useful, I think, in my parts of the industry.
Now with Instagram, but it's all, for Instagram to really work, you have to use it on your smartphone. You can't have a clunky computer at home like I do, writing scripts at 2 in the morning and say, well, I'm going to take a picture of myself writing my screenplay at 2 in the morning on Instagram because the computer monitor doesn't even have a camera in it.
Right, but you're a Samsung person?
Yes.
Well, you can email a photo to yourself.
Right.
You can get it on your phone. Yeah.
I guess the thing for me is that it gets a little, at some point, there's always a balance between doing actual work and sharing that you're doing work in order to get more work.
Right.
And I haven't mastered that, and I haven't figured it out.
Well, it's kind of like if you use the metaphor of another industry, like any industry where you're pursuing work, where there's a client that you're trying to get to hire you. You obviously want to spend time, because that's essentially what modeling is, or working for a film.
Right.
Like you're trying to get this client, be they a film or a brand like Clinique or whatever, to hire you. And so part of your job is doing the work on set that day, but part of your job is pursuing new clients.
Right.
So, you know, you do have to balance it. Like you have to work. You can't just post about whatever.
Working, right. You can't just post like, oh, I'm doing it. You actually have to do it. And to me, what always kills me is that it seems like if I'm getting all confused with how do I email myself this photo that I took on my phone in order to put it on, you know, then I'm losing time from actually writing the script.
Yeah, and it depends, again, if you're a writer, I don't think anybody cares if you have glamour photos on Instagram.
But I try to look good. I try to look good.
Like, they're going to value your work, and also the gatekeepers for writers, like they don't look at your Instagram before they decide if it's a good script. You know,
it's weird because I know with film, I tried to get a sponsorship a long time ago for a project, and they were actually telling me that they did look at my analytics and they weren't impressed at the time.
Well, that's the danger too. I think there are people who go with the Luddite sort of thing of, you know, it's just the craft. Don't worry about marketing, and like that will do itself. And it's kind of true. But then I have these friends who are marvelous actors, but they don't have a web presence. So how do they refer someone to their work if it's not online? Right,
because people aren't going to go buy a $20 ticket for a Broadway show or for an off-Broadway show or
you're
anything.
right, or they just go in for an audition and the casting director, the director Googles them and they can't find any indication online that their work is out there. How are they supposed to know, you know what I mean? Like in terms of even getting the audition, if you email someone you're interested in the role, whatever, if you respond to the casting call, how are they supposed to know your work if you aren't out there? So it does become this like strange balance in the sort of digital currency age of like, you know, how do you stay true to craft but also market yourself
in order to do the craft that you're staying true to.
Right.
It's a tough one. And let's talk about your background. Are you from New England? Are you from the East Coast, West Coast? Where are you from?
I'm from New England. I'm from a suburb of Boston. I grew up here. I went to local schools and then went to Bard College. And I did a semester of conservatory training in London at BADA, and came back. I went to the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center, which is like a regional Tony Award-winning theater center in Connecticut. And I did some training there. And then after that, I just started auditioning.
Is Bard in New York? Is that correct?
It is. It's in upstate New York.
Yeah, a friend of mine went there. He really loved it. It's a very arts-oriented place, right?
Very strong in the arts. Yeah.
Did you enjoyed your time there?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I mean, it was like going to like arts camp for 4 years. You know, like I was able to experiment with like different kinds of like parts of it. You know, I did a lot of writing. I never did any directing. I just knew I wasn't interested in that, but. You know, and I did a lot of acting as well as the other like liberal arts things I had to do to complete my major. So I felt like I left with a very heavy sort of arts focus, but still like a well-rounded education, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell me about a stage role that you've had that you really felt connected to the character or to the piece in general, where you felt that even for one show or for several shows, like you really felt like I'm giving my best, like this is just working. You know what I mean? Do you have an experience like that?
A couple. I think it's hard with film because at the stage I am now, like, you know, I get auditions for films with, you know, household name actors, but I'm the secretary or I have one line or I have some little. And so it's hard to kind of like feel like you did your character work in that circumstance when you have like 3 lines. You know, you can create a whole background of what your character ate for breakfast and all of this stuff, but it just comes down to like your one page and your one day that you have to devote yourself to that. So I think in that context, like it's hard to delve in, but I've definitely had some auditions lately where I was really sort of attached to the character. I don't want to name names for the production companies because I feel like...
Well, actually, what I meant was a stage role.
Oh, stage role.
Yeah, because I actually do have a lot of respect for the theater.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a sad story. I haven't done much theater since 2014. The last production I did was at ART's Oberon, and I played Runt in this play called Disco Pigs. It's 2 actors, 90 minutes.
Wow.
So, and a complete Carrick accent. It was an Irish accent that we carried through the entire show. So, I mean, that was just like a lot. That was like a meaty role, you know. That was monologues and monologues and scenes and scenes and scenes. Just the 2 of us.
The next question for me would be, how do you approach that as an... See, I coach acting, but even for me as an actor, hearing what you just said, a 90-minute piece, 2 actors, that would be very intimidating to me as an actor.
Right.
Like, I would be like, where do I start? And where do you start? Because people watching this might be into acting and say, well, how do I even approach a 90-minute play? How do I memorize these lines?
Yeah, it's challenging. I think it's like eating an elephant. You start with 1 bite.
Okay.
And you don't get intimidated, and you just work for as long as it takes. You know, obviously you have a limited amount of time because the rehearsal process was like 6 weeks, 35 hours a week, I think. But I think it's the background of training. I think you have to pursue training. You know, you have to take that seriously. I think it's expensive a lot of the times, but you find what you can. And if that means you're just like creating a nightly workshop like with other actors where nobody's paying anyone, then do that. Or if that means that you're going to Hollywood East things and trying to meet the community of actors there so that you can teach each other things, then do that. I just think I've learned so much from the educational background that I realized I was very privileged to have, and I don't know how I would know how to do it without that. But I mean, when I was 17, I started being really interested, and I would just make up methods for myself, you know?
Right.
I would take, I would highlight the lines, and then I would take a pen and paper and completely write out the script, like sometimes writing out each line multiple times. Then you break down the beats, the objectives, the tactics, just everything, super objectives for scenes. And then once you've worked with the script that much, the memorization kind of comes more easily. Like in college, I found a lot of times I never had time to sit down and learn lines, but by just rehearsing so much, I would learn them through the rehearsal process.
Do you have a photogenic memory? Some actors can see a script and 2 minutes later they're off book and it's incredible.
I wouldn't say I have a photogenic memory. I could probably memorize a page in 10 minutes for an audition, but
That's still pretty good though.
I would say that I know this one technique that Gene Wagner at Bard College taught me. Shout out to Gene, where you just have the script in your lap and you just look down and you sort of photo memorize 1 line. Right. And then when you feel the impetus to speak, you look up at your scene partner and deliver it without looking down, so that you're making eye contact when you deliver the line.
Lock and load.
And that kind of and that kind of, you know, that makes it so much more engaged, and it sort of gives you the benefits of memorization. Even if you're not completely there with knowing your cues, you at least know on a line by line basis, like to be or not to be. That's the question. You know, I can at least give you that without being in the script,
without reading,
mumbling,
without your head down, and all the energy is on the page instead of your co-actor.
I think that's a Meisner thing, maybe, where you breathe in and you have it, and then you look up and you use the breath to. When I was running an acting class, core acting, I would get, 1 week I'd get a book from Stella Adler during the 6 days between the 2 classes. Then I'd bring all that information into class, see what we could do with it. The next week would be a Meisner or Ivana Chubbuck, you know, who had a great book, I think 12 Steps, for Powered for the Actor, 12 Steps, the Chubbuck lessons, and all types of cool stuff. So there's always new lessons in the craft of acting. I'm excited to talk with you about it because I mean, what I find frustrates me sometimes is you meet actors who they want to be famous, but they don't want to act.
and they don't even enjoy acting. If you really
Right.
get down to it, you kind of get a vibe like, wow, I've just asked them to do some research or watch a video or do some character
Sure.
work, or hey, if you're going to come to my audition, maybe you should get off book, or maybe you should do something.
Right.
And they don't do that because they don't really want to act. They don't really enjoy acting. They like being in front of the camera. And there's a difference to me. You know, the world of YouTube videos and so forth is great, but you need, to me, if you're really going to push that, you have to just kind of be honest with yourself. You're an actor.
Right.
Like, you like to act, or you're an actress.
Right.
You love acting. I like
Right.
acting. I love acting too, but it's like, if you just want to be in front of the camera, you can do YouTube videos. There's room for Johnny Knoxville types. There's room for that, obviously, and maybe there's too much room for that. But it does frustrate me as someone who writes scripts to find people who don't really know what they want yet, and it kind of clouds and
Yeah.
convolutes the rest of us who are trying to do stuff
Right.
of art, I think. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, it's great. I mean, it's important to, I think sometimes people see the like glossy social media exterior, but they don't realize like every day I'm going into Boston Casting and sitting on the bench with sides I got the night before that I broke down, I prepared for, I memorized, I dressed for the part, I came in, I've developed my relationship with the casting directors, I'm doing my job. I can't always post about that though.
Right.
Because those, I'm under non-disclosure. Like, I can't be like, oh, this household name comedian, I just had an audition for their, guess what, I can't say anything
Right.
about that. So a lot of the like job stuff is actually kind of internal.
Right.
And so maybe I don't know, some people are really good at like hinting at what they're doing without spilling the beans, but I
Yeah.
tend to just stick with what's safe and that I know I can use, like a photo shoot that I collaborated with a peer. I know our agreement is that these are for social media, so that's what goes on my social media, because that's I have the rights to use that.
I don't even like the hinting sometimes. You see sometimes people hint around like, I
Right.
can't say what I did today, but it was so awesome and magnificent.
Right, and unfortunately, I have done that from
Right.
time to time,
Right,
and
right.
I think the other unfortunate weirdness that it creates is that then actors see that and they're like, well, why not me? Why didn't I get that
Right.
audition? And sometimes it's just broken down to like people sending me messages like, well, why didn't I get that audition? I emailed
Right.
my agent, why didn't I get that audition? And it's like, because they said for someone redheaded who's this tall and whatever, like, it's nothing personal. And so I've really like learned, I don't even want to say anything
Right.
like hinty because people get their feelings hurt.
Or then they want you to hook them up.
Right.
And then it's like, well, and then you
Yeah.
kind of, what do you say to that? Because as actors, we're entrepreneurs and we're told, well, you've got to hit people up for favors. You've got to be outgoing. So the
Right.
person that's asking for that favor is just following the lead or the instruction they got from some
Right.
teacher somewhere. They
Yeah.
said, well, you got to go out there and be bold. You got to talk to
Right,
20 people a
right.
day. Then when they hit you up as that 20th person that day, then you feel a little infringed upon. So it's
Right.
a tough thing. It's not,
Right.
it's a non-win situation at
Yeah.
times, seemingly.
Right. And when people ask me for like help, or I try to give it the
Right.
best that I can, I do sometimes feel myself like a little bit drowning. Like as your reach becomes greater, there also become more messages. And so like I try to be kind, but also like self-care.
Right.
You can't answer every question. Or that's a great YouTube thing, it's like I can refer them to a YouTube video that I did, and then it's not like I have to answer. Because a lot of times people ask me questions that I answer a lot. Like,
Right.
what are the best agencies in New England? Or who are the casting directors? And it's kind of like sometimes, like, you got to Google it. Or
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Why are you asking
yeah.
me when you can Google and there's plenty of information?
Right.
But
don't
a lot of
know.
it, what a lot of it is, Sarah, I think is
Yeah.
everyone just wants attention.
Right.
And so for you, if someone were to see you as doing a bunch of stuff online,
Right.
and if they have your Facebook, your friendship, and they want to just click a little message and you respond, well, it's kind of
Yeah.
a double-edged sword because you filled their need for a human connection.
Right.
And they kind of have a little rub like, oh, like she's cool because she
Right,
responded.
right,
Now,
right.
if you don't respond, then you're not cool.
Right.
So it's tough because.
But then
we're-
I also get
right,
to, hang out with my dog and relax at night instead of
Right.
answering.
a bunch of messages.
messages.
But then you don't know if that one message that you ignored is
Right.
from someone who actually has a lead on a role
Yes.
for you.
And that's
or
the funny
wherever.
thing about New England too. It's
Right.
such a small, like, I hate the word scene, but it's such a small like scene
Yeah.
that everybody knows each other, it seems to me. And so I've learned, burn no bridge, be kind to everyone because you just don't know like who's second cousins with whoever, and yeah.
I liked your video. Well, just to share the interaction a little bit. You posted something like, "I'm doing a Q&A. Anyone got any questions?" And I just put some randomly funny.
They were good.
Questions. They were cute little questions. And it was like, what's in the Pulp Fiction suitcase?
Right.
And how do I know if a girl likes me?
Right.
And what do you like better, Captain Crunch or Lucky Charms? Right. So I just thought, like, I didn't really know when you were asking for questions. I just thought it was like a fun thing. And I was like, let me just throw some softballs at you and see how you play with them.
Right.
And you did, because then I watched like a week or two later, you had your video with the answers. And it was a live video. I missed it, but I watched the replay. I watched the whole thing.
Right.
And you did talk about all the people that asked you questions, you answered them. And I thought that was kind of cool because honestly, I don't think I've seen quite that done around here. Like, you know, Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell answers your questions.
Right.
And I just thought it was fun.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad. I mean, I feel like it was a fun way to just like engage, and, you know, like I didn't expect, or some of the questions weren't things that I would normally talk about, like just off the cuff thinking of things to put out there. And so I felt like I answered more like questions about myself, and it's hard too because I feel like at this point I'm getting to a point where they're like misperceptions, and so it was a nice way to be like breaking things down a little bit in a safe space that I kind of created, you know. But yeah, I mean, that's the other funny thing about like sort of being out there. It's just like weird men on the internet has been like definitely a downside to all of this, and yeah, and so that was my fear with that, is that people would take it the wrong way and say things that were inappropriate, and no one did until this morning. Someone wrote a comment on that was very not good, and I just sort of, you know, blocked and deleted. But yeah, so that's the challenge. It's like every time you put yourself out there, like great people are like, let's talk about this because I'm really curious, and then there's always those internet trolls that are going to be like blah, 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 blah.
I think it's a weird time for society because what happens, it seems, is like we view celebrities almost with animosity is what I've been thinking these days. And like if you look at these scandals, you know, celebrity photos are hacked, you know, totally illegal, totally disrespecting privacy. But here's 20 nude celebrity pictures, and people are going to click because they have that curiosity. And we put celebrities on a weird pedestal, but we love to break them down. It's like it's a very strange thing. Woody Allen did a movie titled Celebrity. I don't think it was a very good movie. I saw it, but I think there have been movies like The Player, which really was influential in me. It's a Tim Robbins movie from '92, and it really deconstructs the world of cinema, Hollywood filmmaking. And Bruce Willis has a cameo. Julia Roberts has a cameo in this movie, The Player. It really influenced me because it shows the behind-the-scenes madness and insanity of Hollywood. And now it's not even just Hollywood, it's everywhere. We all want to be famous. And I'm at the point, maybe you are too, where if I meet someone who doesn't have a need to be famous or be an actor, I can't even relate to him sometimes. You know, people who are just kind of like regular folks who have a regular job, I just don't know how to connect anymore. And that's on me, you know what I mean? Like I've lost touch with normalcy.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I'll talk about these strange men that I'm meeting. But yeah.
No, just, no, the internet trolls. That's definitely, that website that you mentioned that did the celebrity phone hacks, someone at some point made a post about me.
Oh, God.
So, yeah, like I think that's the way in which fame is very not a desirable state of living. I mean, I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to create social change through the art that I did. I never wanted to be famous. Like, I don't think, also I think in New England, it's very easy to enjoy a kind of local celebrity. And the minute you leave here, it's so beyond meaningless.
Welcome to the big pond.
Yes, so like, you know, I don't think anyone in New England should be caught up in fame because I don't know what it really means. I think it's kind of I don't know. It depends how you use it.
It's the
if
fish
you use
syndrome.
it for good, you know. But
social change. Tell me about that. We've got what social change would you like to see?
I mean, I'm really impressed by. I watched the Emmys the other night. You know, Reese Witherspoon and Nicole Kidman producing their own work, Big Little Lies, to sort of speak out against the culture of domestic abuse and like, you know, just people are producing work now that's more challenging, and we're seeing women in different ways. And I think that the way that we see people portrayed in the media, a lot of people, you know, they're getting messages about how the world is through that, and especially young people. You know, the first play that I did that made me want to be an actor was about this girl who's raped by her sister's husband and then sort of takes revenge on him and tries to, you know, tell people what he did. You know, he was, it's an adaptation of a Greek play. It's Love of the Nightingale by Timberlake Wertenbaker. But, you know, how modern is that? And now recently I was in Chappaquiddick, which is about Ted Kennedy, a political figure getting away with, you know, the murder of a young woman, essentially. I mean, I don't want to use murder as a strong word, but watch the movie and decide for yourself, I guess.
Well, yeah.
But, you know, like, so I just think for me it was about, like, taking on characters where, like, you're creating a different vision. You're making people rethink something that they may have made assumptions about before, or if they can leave the theater changed with their perception, like, opened, or they've thought about something more critically. You know, like, that's my goal.
A lot of people don't even want to think. That's the problem.
Right. They want to be entertained.
They want escapism.
Right.
They want to think in certain moments of the day, and then escape in other moments.
Sure.
And then there's always that conflict of, hey, man, I just want to eat my Captain Crunch right now, and you're telling me about some starving person.
Which is a valid, you know, that's a valid, I think the entertainment facet is also valid. You know, it's like not everything has to be so didactic, but I definitely think there's value in, but I mean, I think the difficulty is the fame is like created as an almost accident of the marketing. Like, you want to have a wider reach, a wider audience, you have a better chance of getting roles. But as a result, you have a wider reach and a wider audience, and people are watching you. You know what I mean? But that's not the goal, at least for me personally. And I think that's one of the misperceptions I talked about. People see me posting all this stuff, and maybe they think it's for, you know, I don't know, like validation or something. But I think it's, at least in my understanding, a lot of the times just to like be like, I'm out here, I'm working, I'm doing stuff. Like, you want to be part of this with me? Like, let's make film.
I think what's really interesting is we just tore through a half hour, like in 2 seconds. We're going to have you on another episode to show your stuff, because we didn't even get to your reel or your anything, because we just talked for half an hour.
It was great.
Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell.
Thank you.
Actress and writer. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching this episode of Messier Mantra. We'll see you next time.